Welcome back to the List of It, where we share lists of interesting facts and other times just our opinions. Last time we brought you 10 horrifying serial killers from North America. Serial killers hunt in places all over the world, and this time we have 10 disturbing serial killers from South America. First up at number 10 is Maria Mercedes Murano. Maria is a woman from Argentina who murdered 3 people in 1979. Maria owed money to 2 women who both died of cyanide poisoning in February of 79. Her cousin Carmen died the same way the following month. Maria was arrested in April of that year and was convicted of the 3 murders in 1985, and she spent 16 years in prison. Upon her release, she sent the judges responsible for her release a box of chocolates. Food from a convicted poisoner, just what everyone wants. Next at 9 is Francisco Chagas. Francisco is a man who committed acts of rape, murder, and genital mutilation on up to 42 boys in Brazil between 1989 and 2003. Francisco was a bicycle mechanic who would rape boys between the ages of 4 and 15, castrate them, and then murder them. Some of his victims were buried under his house. Francisco claims to have lost track of just how many boys he has killed. He was arrested in December of 2003 and is now serving 217 years in prison. Coming up at number 8 is Julio Perez Silva. Julio raped and killed 14 people in Chile between 1998 and 2001, making him the most brutal serial killer in the history of the country. Julio used rocks, other objects, and even his fists to beat his victims to death after raping them. He was arrested in October of 2001, which inevitably led to a life imprisonment sentence. At 7 is Nicolas Mendoza. Between 1995 and 1996, Nicolas raped and murdered 13 girls as young as 6 and as old as 9 in Peru. He would take the girls to an abandoned place, rape, and then kill them all by asphyxiation. Several bodies were found in an abandoned well, and in September of 1996, Nicolas confessed to his crimes. He was sentenced the following year to life in prison. Next at number 6 is Alex Ramon Maquera. Nicknamed El Loco Hammer, Alex murdered 8 people in 2004. Alex was a medical student who went on to murder his sister, 4 of his nephews, and 3 other people with a hammer in Peru, before being arrested in December of 2004. A little bit less than a year later, he would be sentenced to life in prison. Halfway there at number 5 is Dorangel Vargas. Dorangel is a homeless man who killed and ate 10 men in Venezuela in the late 1990s. These actions led to him earning the nickname Hannibal Lecter of the Andes. He would beat men to death and then commit acts of cannibalism. In 1999, he was arrested and he confessed to the 10 murders. Even though he confessed to multiple murders, Dorangel believes he is in jail for nothing. Up next at 4 is Pedro Nakata. Also known as the Apostle of Death, Pedro is convicted of 17 murders, but claims to have committed 25. Pedro claims to have been chosen by God to rid the earth of homosexuals, prostitutes, drug users, and other criminals. He killed with a 9mm pistol in a 2-year span in Peru. He was arrested in December of 2006 after a shootout with police. He was sentenced to the maximum of 35 years in prison, which he is currently serving. At 3 is Daniel Barbosa. Daniel is suspected of raping and killing up to 150 girls and women between the 1970s and 1980s in Colombia and Ecuador. In 1986, Daniel was arrested by 2 policemen in Ecuador just minutes after murdering a 9-year-old girl. The cops thought he was acting suspiciously, and after approaching him, they discovered he was carrying a bag that contained the bloody clothes and the clitoris of his latest victim. In 1989, he was convicted of killing 72 girls and was sentenced to 25 years in prison, which is the maximum sentence in Ecuador. He would not, however, serve the full 25 years, as in 1994, Daniel was murdered by another prisoner. Next up at number 2 is Luis Garavito. Also known as the Beast, Luis has been described as the world's worst serial killer. In 1999, he confessed to raping, torturing, and murdering 147 young boys in Colombia. Luis drew a map to the locations of his victims' bodies, and authorities believe the total number of victims might be over 300 based on the map. Luis is currently serving a 40-year prison term. Finally, the number 1 entry on our list is Pedro Lopez. Known as the Monster of the Andes, Pedro was convicted of killing and raping 110 young girls, but claims to have killed over 300. Pedro experienced both violence and sexual abuse. At some points in his life, he was even homeless. In 1980, he was arrested in Ecuador, where he confessed to killing over 300 people in Ecuador, Peru, and his home country of Colombia. The police did not believe his claims until a flood uncovered a mass grave of his victims. Pedro was in prison with our number 3, Daniel Barbosa. As of 1994, Pedro is a free man, but is suspected of another murder having taken place in 2002. His current whereabouts are unknown. So there you had 10 disturbing serial killers from South America. Let us know in the comments below which one disturbed you the most, and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to the list of it.